And we were
that way.
talking about this yesterday, where we are talking about how a lot of pros in certain games, even cross genres, tend to kind of go pro in like different games, right? Like if they're already playing at a really high elo, at a really high level in one game, sometimes it's easy for them to translate into another game. And it's part of like the discussion we're having on improving and becoming a better player, because they're skills that you can develop, right? They're almost like learning skills. The ability to learn patterns and pick up on things very quickly, that allows some of these players to kind of like do that cross game thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of good examples of that. For example, like the Overwatch community. Not sure how many people are familiar with Huck. He was a pro
Right, and he's
StarCraft
now
2 player.
Yep.
a caster too, and he's
Yeah,
been a
he's a
coach for
caster.
teams and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, and he's also like I think he plays like low GM. He's around like high
Yeah,
masters, low
he
GM.
does.
He
He's a
played
good player,
for
and he has
Canada, right, for the team.
Yep,
Yeah, I
he was
believe
on
so.
Canada.
And he's a very considering the relatively small amount of time he's put into FPS games and Overwatch, he's a very strong player.
Mm-hmm.
Another example is like I have a one of the people I play with, Silver Jade. He's been really high level in pretty much every. He's probably the most terrifying gamer I know. Period. I think he's gotten to be rank 1 in PvP in at some point in almost every MMO I'm aware of, and then get bored
Jeez.
and play a different one.
Dang.
He also got rank 1 in Smite playing support. No, I think he swapped to DPS at the end and did that, and then stopped playing. And he played Overwatch for 1 season and touched GM. So like that, there are certain people that are very good at getting good at games, even cross genres, and a lot of it comes down to, well, it's sort of two things. First off is that learning a game, a lot of it just comes down to being consistent with progression, because it's really easy to hit plateaus, and the sort of the sort of learning progression for a lot of people when they get into games is that you play and you hit that sort of plateau, and at some point you learn a lot, and in 1 season or the span of a few weeks you might move from, let's say, gold to low plat, a large jump. It's not usually super incremental. Usually it's some sort of significant jump. And you look back and think about how much you sucked, and that's usually the process when it comes to learning this kind of stuff. And it's really it is sort of integral to the sort of methodology of it too, is that if you're very, very comfortable with your current play and you're not criticizing yourself, especially having some sort of short feedback cycles, the sort of idea of like, oh, I'm missing shots, and that's sort of a very short feedback cycle. You shoot, you miss, and then you realize you missed. But then there's the stuff that's a little bit harder, like in StarCraft, for example, you can lose a game. You can make a decision that loses you a game 10 minutes later, and it's kind of hard to associate. So